Okay, I'm alive. I don't know if you can see it on the screen that says you're
Yes,
alive.
I did. Yes.
Oh, very nice,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's coffee chat. So, I'm really looking forward to this conversation because it's something that many writers don't talk about enough, but we all experience it once we've worked with more than one company. So, there's no one size fits all when it comes to creating documentation. I'll say that again. There's no one size fits all when it comes to creating documentation. So, what works for one company, the structure, the tone, the workflow might not or might completely fail at another company. So every company has different products, different users, and different internal goals, and your documentation needs to reflect that. So today I'm joined with three amazing technical writers. I hope that Wisdom will join later on. So currently two amazing technical writers who've worked with very different types of companies, audiences, and platforms. Each of them brings a unique perspective to this conversation, and I'm really excited for what you take away from it today. So yeah, so without further ado, I'll go into the introduction phase. So first up, we have Michael Clark. So Michael Clark, say hi.
Hello.
Hi. So Michael Clark is a seasoned technical author with over 25 years of experience. He currently works at Atkins Realis. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I actually checked YouTube to give me the correct pronunciation.
Realis. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, Atkins Realis, because I was struggling with the AT. So I was like, is it Atkins Realis or is it Atkins Realis? So is the T silent? I think the T is silent. So,
No,
right?
Atkins. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is actually. It is a surname, Atkins. So yeah,
Uh,
the
okay.
Realis was added on because we're connected to a Canadian company.
Uh,
And
okay.
Canadian. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, his
Okay.
wisdom.
So yeah, I think you turn up his or turn on his camera very soon. So yeah, so Michael Clark is a technical author with over 25 years of experience. That's my age. Sorry, oh my god, I'm blown away because I'm 26. I'm going to be 27 this year. So I'm like, wow. Yeah, so thumbs up. So he currently works at Akins Realis, where he focuses on IT service documentation for large-scale data center migration projects. So Michael also trains engineers to write in plain English and helps teams meet compliance standards like PCI or DSS for secure handling of payment data and GDPR for protecting user privacy. Next is Owanate Amakri. So she leads developer experience documentation at Rootstock Labs, a major player in the blockchain space. She's built out their full developer content strategy from docs and tutorials to videos and courses. So while working with tools like Markdown, Jekyll, Git, and more. And Wisdom Wakacha, he's here. Hi, Wisdom. It's nice to have you. I think you're muted.
Yeah, you're moving.
Hi. Yeah, hi,
Yeah,
Michael. Hi, everyone.
we're glad to have you here today. How are you doing today?
Doing good. I'm doing
I can
great.
I can see that. You have the glow up, so I think you're doing very good. So yeah, so next up is Wisdom Nwakacha. He's also known as the Docs Guru. So he's a developer focused technical writer who spent the past 5 years working with SaaS companies across the globe. Wisdom specializes in API documentation, automation, and static site generators. And he's also the founder of a documentation community with over 5,000 members. And then there's me. So I'm Deborah. I'm Deborah Emini. I like to call myself Debbie, by the way. So it always sounds weird when I say I'm Deborah because I like to call myself Debbie. So I'm Debbie. I'm Debbie. I'm a senior technical writer with over 5 years of experience creating documentation and developer focused content, especially for companies in the cloud and DevOps space. I've also spoken at over 20 global tech conferences and love building content that's clear, useful, and easy to understand. So I'm so excited to learn from three of them today, Wisdom, Michael, and Owanate. So let's jump right into our first question. So we have just four questions, and we hope to have a very insightful conversation. And we hope that everyone that attends this live today and everyone that would watch this recording later on, because it will be recorded automatically, so you can come back to the recording and rewatch and rewatch and rewatch again as much as possible. So we hope that you get something very solid from this conversation today. So to set this foundation, I have one question and I'm going to throw out at our wonderful speakers today. So any one of you can go for it. So yeah. So can you share a moment? I think I'm going to put this in the on the screen so it's easy to like for the audience to know the exact question we're talking about. So yeah, so can you share a moment when you realized that documentation had to be done differently at a new company, even though a certain approach had worked for you before? So I'll take that again. So can you share a moment when you realized that documentation had to be done differently at a new company? It's something I forgot to do, so I wanted to give like a short introduction where I give you guys at least but there's no time, so I think I'll just go right into the question. So can any one of you take up the question? So basically it could be about structure, voice, process, or even stakeholder expectations. Something that a time when you realize that the documentation had to be done differently at a new company.
This can be down to the company you work for and probably
Yeah.
whoever the hiring manager is. Because it's never ceased to amaze me in 25 years in this job. They get you in, but they don't want to listen to you. You know what I mean? They
Hmm.
all have their own ideas. So as you say, sometimes you have to do it differently, even though what you've had before has worked for you,
Hmm.
because it's the way they want to see it and the way they want it approached. And I have to say, I'm not going to mention any companies or any names here, but there's been a couple of instances where you know, we've had to do it, and it's not really worked.
Hmm.
You know, it's you keep saying, if you're hiring me, let me tell you how you need to do
Let me
this
do
and
my
how
job.
you need to approach
Exactly.
it.
Hmm.
And yeah, but they just don't want it done. They want it done in the same old way that they've had it done before, despite the fact it's never worked.
That's something. That's something because I don't know why. I don't know why that is. Why? Does it have to do with the manager being very not open-minded? Or does it have to be the fear of paying for maybe new tools or the budget? Or why? Why is that?
Yeah, well, no companies like spending money on anything, do they?
True.
You know,
True,
it,
true, true.
uh,
That's
I've seen companies sort of have SharePoint developed, because I'm sure you all know at one stage SharePoint was not a huge thing, but
mhm.
then Microsoft threw a lot of money into it to try and build it up. And one company I know spent, wait for it, £64,000
Wow.
having developed by a team at Capgemini,
Hmm.
and they still didn't use it properly
Oh
after
my.
going to all that expense. That's a lot of money,
Yeah, that's crazy. Hmm.
because they just wanted to see things as it was.
Yeah. Well, that's a very interesting conversation. I don't want us to like buttress or rather digress, rather not buttress. Oh my god. Okay, let's move on to Juanita, what do you have to say about this question? Can you share a moment when you realized that documentation had to be done differently at a new company, even though a certain approach had worked for you before?
Yeah, for me, I've um spent almost all my career in technical writing in one company, so
Okay.
I wouldn't word it as in different companies for now.
Okay.
But I think after being in a company for over 5 years, of course, stuff changes, right?
Yeah.
Vision changes, and to buttress on what Michael said,
Hmm.
I think it has to be about the focus of the company per time. So some things, it depends on their vision, where they're looking, what they're looking to achieve, which is very important,
Yeah.
and that can shape documentation, especially content, especially structure and some stuff. Yeah. So for me, I would tilt towards what is expected of you per time, what is
Hmm.
the vision, and what is the company expecting to achieve per time. So
Mm.
that might also affect the structure, can affect some like
Yeah.
Michael said, it's probably they are thinking, okay, this is what we want to achieve, do it like this.
Yeah.
irrespective of the norm or the standards in. Yeah, yeah. So that's my take.
Mhm. Makes a lot of sense. Wisdom, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I have like a story to tell. I have an experience. So I think I joined a company to shape up their documentation. Now it's a very big company. It's not a startup. Like it's a very big company that has more than 7,000 employees. So I don't want to mention the particular tool that they use actually just so they use a tool that is not good for a company that has several products. So they have more than 10 products and they want to use. I know if I keep talking, you might know the tool. So they use a tool which is an enterprise documentation platform, but it's not good for a company as big as that with so many products. So when I joined, first thing I checked is what tool are we using, how many products do we have, what areas will I focus on, and I was shown what to do. And I checked and I saw that we have more than 10. I was surprised. And why are we using this? That was my first question.
Mm.
And they said most of the decision needs to come from above. I said, okay, so how can we get information to the above to tell them that this is not good? And I was told clearly that you might try, but it might not work. So that broke my heart, first of all. So I started looking for ways to convince. It's just like I turned to a salesperson, like to convince the both that we don't need to use this. We need to use something much better, something scalable, something
Yeah.
that since we have different. Imagine having more than 10 and using like a tool that is paid and
Yeah.
restrictions. You can't use some kind of cool plugins. It's even difficult using the Docker code, approach. Although it works a bit. Like I said, if I continue, I might know the tool. So it works a bit, but it's quite difficult. So I tried it as I turned to a salesperson to convince them that what we are using is not good, that we need to use something scalable. So I designed a slide presentation to present, created some small, one of the open source SSGs. I think I used Dockersaurus for that.
Okay.
Something small with that. I know Dockersaurus has a way you can create different repos and made into one repo for one documentation. So I had to do that and presented that to them. That what we are using is not good because we're having different teams. Everybody's trying to work differently.
Yeah.
Everything in one place. And one other issue with that tool is organization is a huge problem when it comes to docs. It's very, very important to organize well. So it's easier for you to find, for you to delete, and more. And that is what a problem. If you upload an image in that platform, that's it. All the image are just stacked in one place. So anyway, I had to follow that approach to tell the people at the top that we need to change this. And they listened and we started implementing that stuff. Like I said,
Yeah.
my story.
Yeah, nice, nice, nice. So I think we'll move on to the next question. So when you start working with a new company or project, how do you figure out what kind of documentation they really need and who you're writing for? So like what signals or steps help you align with the company's users and business context?
I think when you get to a lot of companies, some of them already know what they want. So they have got an idea, and I'm talking about people who know what they want and aren't going to tell you otherwise. They're actually going to listen to you. They're going to be kind to you.
Yeah.
But because as you probably know, I did start off in software, but I'm very much into process and policy and things like this, incident management, change management, things like that. But in these cases, I've worked for a couple of data centers where they needed incident management flows. We knew what they wanted. They needed change management. They needed problem management as well, because they all tie in together. And it's the way we present the information, because when you're writing this, you're writing it specifically for internal users by their support teams, people who will be managing incident or change or manage the problem as you're going along. So you've got nice tabulated processes, Visios, which explain everything. Because just bear in mind, everybody, that some people like to read things, some people like nice swim lanes, but
Yeah.
some people like to see both. This is
Yeah.
why we all do both.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's a lot of this can be ascertained quite quickly because I've been to. Let's just say you were talking, like I say, I've been in this job for 25 years, but as a contractor for 18 years, I've worked for over 45 companies. That's
Wow.
quite a lot. So yeah, I've picked up quite a
Wow.
lot of experience, and
Wow.
you begin to realize at an interview that sometimes they don't know what to ask you. They can show you what they've got, but they don't know what to say. And here's the turnaround, and this is always well worth remembering, is rather than them interviewing you, you interview them and ask them what they've got and make sure they've got examples of what they've got. And then you can say, well, I can see what you want, but we can improve this. And we all know instant change, it's for an internal audience.
Yeah.
It's going to be used internally. But there have been other documents which we've had to written, which are processed of needed for a third party as well. But the whole point is when you're doing this is keep it simple. You know, there's a what I think it's a KISS. Keep it simple. If you're in the army, it's keep it simple, stupid. You know what I mean? Keep your language simple.
Yeah.
And make sure it's easy to read. Cut out the jargon.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. And who you're writing for, just make sure you know who is your end audience. That is very, very important.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was very insightful. Owanate, what do you think?
When working with a new company or project, so I'm going to come from the experience of rebuilding a documentation from scratch. So I think the user research, of course, as a new technical writer, when joining a new technical writing team or a new company, the first thing you should try to do is what is the goal of the company and who are they looking to serve? Are they looking to serve enterprises? Are they looking to serve developers? Is it a business to business? Is it a business to users kind of situation? And that can inform, right, the user research.
Yeah.
When it comes to documentation, you now have to do an audit. So based on the user research results about the audiences, you then do a documentation audit, a UX audit. Is this documentation serving the audience that is supposed to feed into this content?
Yeah.
And from my experience, it like I always go back to the goal per time. Depending on the goal of the company, maybe it's to add translations, maybe it's to revamp the information architecture, or maybe it's to migrate content or revamp the content or revamp the entire documentation. User research is the foundations. And as a technical writer, if you know the users, it's easy for you because there comes a time when you have to combine a lot of audiences into one into your information architecture, into your journey, and it's a lot. It's a lot of brain work. So the user research part, the UX audit, and then that will inform the documentation and the content that you're going to be pushing out to
I
your
even think
audience.
that's like the foundation. That should be the foundation, to be honest. Everything is for the users at the end of the day. So if we're not communicating the right language, saying the right things, helping them out, then it's not, the documentation is not helpful.
Yeah.
Very, very great point you shared. Wisdom, what do you think?
Yeah, so for me, first, when you join a new company as a technical writer, I want to, set up a new project. Yeah, so like Owan said, so for me, first is to have or probably know those that are already managing that documentation before
Okay.
you join, because that way you will be able to know, okay, this is what they've been doing and this is where they want to go, which is very, very important. So you just join a company. So sometimes you will join a company, people managing the docs are not technical writers. So which means you have a whole lot of work to do to try to re-strategize this so it can, because what they are doing is just to put up content the way it is. So you start putting things in place. So the first is know the SMEs involved. And now you need to know each SME, depending on how big the docs is, or if they have a lot of products, they write in the docs. So you need to know the SMEs you need to work with. So for example, the docs has 4 different products. So you need to know the 4 different SMEs, which are the subject matter experts, those that are very good in that. So if you need help in improving those sections, you can easily, meet those people. Then the next you need to do is to run an audit on the entire docs. So the audit is you checking for issues in the docs, areas that needs to be improved, and areas that needs to be deleted and more. So you have like an audit report when you're done with. So the audit report will have, for example, it will have the link to the page that has the issue, in the page, the section that has that issue, then also the solution. So it's easier for you to present that and say, okay, because you can't just join the company, you want to make changes and you don't have a report, you just say, I want to change this because it's bad.
And also, exactly, just like stating their problems that they probably already know, and then just giving it back to them. And then just
so with that report, it's easier for them to understand what you're saying and now put it to the direction they want. Now already, when you meet the SMEs, they will always tell you that this is the area the docs is going. We have, for example, we are writing docs for internal users only. We are writing docs for external users only, or the docs, we have 2 sections, one for internal, one for external. So meeting the SMEs first will help you understand the direction the docs is going, the audience they are writing for. Then you now run your audit. So with your audit, you now have, I'll call it the blueprint. You have everything you need to do to start working on it. Now, when you run the audit also involves you knowing if the platform they are using needs to be changed or you need to continue working with that platform. And for audit, I have a lot to say about audit. Okay,
because I feel like that's a conversation for another day.
That's a lot. So stop you.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you so much for that wisdom. So we have one other question that has to do with the business impact. So have you ever had to change the structure or goals? I think we've touched on this somewhat in the other answers. So have you ever had to change the structure or goals of documentation based on what the business cared about, like reducing support tickets, increasing adoption, or onboarding developers faster? So I think we can brush through this because I think we've really touched on it already.
Yeah, so let me start this time around. So one that I did in my current company is one has to do with reducing the support ticket and the onboarding. So we are more into the gaming betting system. So we have a section to onboard, other not like developers per se or onboarding companies. So we have the developers know how to use our SDK, know how to use. We have a product for them to know how to use. So we documented all that on the documentation. So one thing is the customer support normally have calls, back and forth calls. They have like they have a journey for that already. So the journey is quite long. So what I try to do to reduce that, I try to use 2 products. One is GiveCamp, and the other one is StoryLane. So StoryLane is more like a demo platform where it gives you that demo view as if you're using the platform, simulating it. Meanwhile, you're not using it. So you're able to click and you're able to add a text to it. So just like if you look at this screen right now, you want to show someone how to click. I don't know if you can see the sign up free at the top right. So that will give you like an animation pointing towards that, telling this is sign up. When you click on the sign up, it goes to the other page. This is sign in, this is this. So whenever you click, it gives you that movement as if you're actually doing that. So I brought in that, so that would reduce that call of showing the customers click here.
Yeah, very important.
That reduce that. So instead of having like 10 steps, I removed 3 steps with that. So now because we have different users and how they use product and how comfortable they are. So we have those that will be comfortable using that. We have others that will like, never, I don't want
Never.
to use it. So
Yes.
I also let the other teams know that we need to have a video version of that. And
Yeah.
so wrote the user guide of that. So now we've given them 3 options.
3 options. Yeah.
First is the user demo. If you
Mhm.
don't like it, watch the video. If you don't like the video, read the
The-
content. If you don't like any of them, I don't understand. But anyways, that
Yeah. Try to figure it out on your own then.
we've given them different options.
Yes.
So now that has reduced support ticket of I was doing this, I forgot. Can we jump on the call? So that has reduced that drastically from the feedback I got.
Mhm.
So that step, an idea I brought in, reduced that. Now with the gift cap, it's more like a gift. So, but that doesn't bring that interactivity. And interactivity in docs is very, very important.
Very important. Yeah.
I always tell people don't write documentation like it's Google Docs. Try to add up some
Mhm.
spicy stuff to add more beauty to it. So give
Yeah.
this sample just like a video. So instead of having a video, you can swap it with the GIF camp because that is smaller in size. So your documentation doesn't just grow too fast and it delays a bit to load. So that is what I did to try to reduce the support ticket and the onboarding. So we reduced it from 10 steps, removed 3 to 4 steps, and the other steps are mandatory for them to follow up with the other ones. Thank you.
That's very good. I think Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, that was this was one of my last contracts, and the company had failed an audit, an official ISO 27001 audit, and one of the reasons being is that the documentation failed, and the reason because the documentation failed, it was a simple case of the titles did not match the content of the document. So, for example, they were saying it was a change management process, but the document didn't contain a process, it contained a plan. So you will know the process is very different from the plan.
Yeah.
And this was a constant problem throughout this, is that nothing matched up. And the other problem was the documents were unusable. And the documents were important because you'll probably, if you ever get involved and say an audit, a company's audit to get a security, an ISO security certification, is documentation is important. Yeah, this was just a simple case of the documentation not reflecting the actual title. And when we were finding a process, say for how to manage an incident, nobody could use it. And as I always say, the point about when you're doing these processes with your Visio drawings, they have to be accurate because the company did go through quite a few sort of where there was an incident called. Nobody knew what to do because the documentation didn't work.
Yeah.
And it was. In some cases, they probably could have solved the problem within, say, 2 to 3 hours. But I know there was one incident kicked off at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it wasn't solved till good 12 hours later. But if they'd had documentation, which was right, they probably would have got through things a lot quicker.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, this is. I had to change the documents quite a lot. This was during COVID. I actually had to go down to the company's offices and work with another 2-3 people to pull these flows together. And then, of course, you've got the flow, then you've got to explain the narrative and everything like that. And we just had to change the way the documentation was written.
Yeah.
And I think I'll guarantee you, as you go through your career in this, you will find this is quite a common problem.
Yeah. Very, very, very good response.
Wisdom like that.
Thank you so much, Michael. Okay. So, Owanate, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, I think when you, well, for me, when you work at a crypto company, terms like support tickets are like not really familiar, to be honest. But there's the opposite side of it, which is community. When it comes to crypto, is much about community,
Yeah.
open source and all that. For me, it's going to be the onboarding, reducing the onboarding time for developers at my current company. So with the revamp of the documentation, we introduced quick starts
Okay.
and some quick starts into the contents, and we had to cut down. We had to revamp the information architecture to
Mhm.
showcase developers, node operators, and all that. So that like specifies your journey. So irrespective of who you are, if you're a developer, this is, you know where to go.
Yeah.
If you're a node operator, you know where to go, and if
Sorry.
you're a user, you know where to go.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it will be reducing the onboarding time for developers into the products, and also um, technical writers also contribute to reducing support ticket, like Wisdom said. For crypto, it's going to be about ensuring that when developers are asking questions in the community, you are there to respond. You are familiar with the content, the documentation, so you can easily whip up the URL to that particular content and all that.
Mhm.
And also, one thing I would like to share is also the based on the revamp. The documentation also won an award for best accessible documentation.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
some
that-
for UX, permit me to say some companies do not really pay attention to the design because you have to use standard open source tools, Docusaurus, Jekyll. So it's not really UX, it's not really UI friendly. And although some developers do not really care about that, they care about updated content, but that can also contribute to um, giving an ambience to your company, right? What at the end of the day, what notion do you want to give to the users of your documentation? You want to tell them that you care about documentation, you care about content. So if you care about content, documentation, that means you care about them, right?
Mhm.
Because they are the users. Yeah.
Yeah.
So increasing adoption, yeah, the increasing adoption and onboarding, I think they go hand in hand because so far
Yeah.
as people can use your tool, your SDK, yeah, they can easily adopt your product.
Products, yeah, very good. I think they all play in developer experience, and if there's a good developer experience, obviously you retain more developers, you retain more customers, so it makes sense. Thank you for that very good response. So we have the fourth question before we do the last wrap up question. So I love that we're on track with the time. So what's one piece of advice you'd give a writer preparing to document for a new company or going into an interview? So, what's one piece of advice you'd give a writer, a technical writer, preparing to write a documentation, prepare a documentation for a new company, or someone going into for a documentation interview?
I think Michael
Good
Yeah.
answer. Thank you. Go ahead.
Michael mentioned a bit of it at the beginning that you
Yeah.
might come with all you know
Mm,
and you find out that you cannot apply it and you have to advocate. So you need to do a lot of advocating, but at the end of the day, it's a collaboration. You have to collaborate with the stakeholders. You have to make sure that you communicate what you're thinking because they are not technical writers. They don't know about user journey, they don't know about UX audit, they don't know about content. Okay. So you
structure.
need to like Wisdom said, you need to structure it and you need to present it and
Yeah.
your
But
thoughts organized. Yeah. So for me, it will be about do not stick to I'm a technical writer, I have a lot of years of experience, and this is how it should be. No, you have to understand where they're coming from, you have to understand their goals, and you have to understand the product and what they're trying to achieve. For
yeah.
a crypto company, it's about community. So in some cases, the style guide might be different, some of the tone might be different and all that. But at the end of the day, one thing is paramount across industries, which is the user just wants updated content, be able to use the documentation. Yeah, so from my end, do not stick to technical writing norms. It doesn't translate across companies. It changes, right?
Yeah.
So be very careful about that, so you don't appear as too rigid with your opinions. And yeah, you'll definitely succeed in the interview, and it's going to be just stakeholders. They
Yeah.
must put them in mind when you are sharing these ideologies. Thank you.
I think that just emphasizes or re-emphasizes the topic of discussion for today, which is there's no one size fits all in creating documentation for companies, because one that the strategy that work for the other company might not be acceptable by the new company, and then you have to adapt. You have to be able to adapt as a technical writer, and the main goal, remember, is for the users. So it's not about you; it's about the users. It's about the company, the product, and the users. Thank you for that advice, Owanate. Who'd like to go next?
No, I was just going to pick up on a point you've just made there, because when you've worked on certain places and you've worked with more than sort of yourself and other technical authors, we understand each other. We know where we're coming from, but not everybody else will understand our story. You know, that's what I'm saying. So you're very correct. Is when you're in there, don't start going on about, oh, I'm a technical, blah blah blah. Just keep it straight. Keep it straight. You don't have to make it out that you're the big whatever, and you know best. Just well, this is it. As you say, if you're going for an interview, just keep everything straight and simple and answer their questions. I think I've written a blog about this somewhere. So if you're going for an interview, or say a project manager or somebody is interviewing you, what they need to ask you, it's because I don't know if any of you have ever been to an interview, but I was interviewed once by a business analyst, and all his questions were based on business analysis, and I was, what? What are you talking about? It's he obviously was applying what he knows to his role, to my role, which doesn't work. And I think you'll find, if you're an interview and you're being interviewed by the project manager, sometimes the project manager is very good at everything else except documentation. Project managers need to be educated in their role, as to where documentation's going. So to say, if you're preparing to go in for a company, just keep it straight. Explain what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. Ask who's your SMEs, what tools are you using? Microsoft Word, Confluence, SharePoint, whatever. I know there are others out there, but as I've not used a huge amount of them. Just tell them how you're going to do it. I must point out, many years ago, I had a phone call from somebody, and he called me. He says, I'm going for a technical authoring job. Ironically, it was the same job I had been put forward for, but I really wasn't that keen on the job. So I told him how to approach the job and what to say, and he got it. He got the job.
Oh, nice.
So a friend of his, she phoned me up and she says, I'm going for a software job. So I said, what do I need to know? So I told her, and she got the job.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was thinking I should run a full-time service on this.
I think that would be nice.
This is how you become this is how you succeed in interviews. If you want to be a technical author, just ask me. I've had plenty of experience. But yeah, keep it simple, keep it straight. Don't overblow, your technical authoring credentials. It's not necessary. And also if you're going, have samples, if you can have samples. Because I haven't been able to do that for a very long time, because I've worked in, shall we say, confidential environments, and I've had to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. So, but if you can, take them along. It helps.
Very important. Thank you so much for sharing that, Michael.
Yeah.
Really helpful information. Wisdom, can you say something in like less than 3 minutes?
All right, yeah. So I think we've covered up most of the point. I will talk more on I think the interview part.
Interview, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so on my own, I kind of have my own style, which I always tell my students and mentees that first you need to know technical writing, the aspect you're more focused on. So if you're focused on software part, if you're focused on technical writing for the medical field, ensure you know much about that field. But most importantly, know more about technical writing, the major areas about technical writing, and ensure you teach the interviewer, because that's how I normally do my interviews. Because if you teach them, not like, for example, they ask you, tell me about yourself, and sometimes people will probably talk about family problems. Yeah, I had issues last week. They don't want to hear that. So just teach them about everything technical writing. First, they will feel vulnerable where you are. That way you're going to cross. But when you just go straight up and say, "Okay, I'm a technical writer, I started here, I worked here," and you end it like that, trust me, more questions will come your way. So, but when you teach them technical writing, I did technical writing, and I always tell people try to build some, just like I said about projects, have projects. Now, when you check their JD, being job description, you see that we need someone with API docs, we need someone with API docs experience, SSGs, and this. You come with the samples of API docs and SSGs. First, when they look at your samples, they will know that you know what you're doing, you know why you're there. There, for me, always teach them, tell them about stuff. Go as far as telling them about writing style guide, different writing style guide, why you should use this, why you should use that. When you're done, I think there are interviews I joined. After I'm done talking, the interviewer said, "Okay, yeah, you've answered most of my questions." And so, what questions do you have for me? And when I joined, I saw their questions, and trust me, I might have failed it.
The dog guru.
I might have failed it. So
You
that's
might
it.
have, yeah. I think that's very solid advice. Wisdom has actually told me that before, and I've used this strategy and it works. So it's very good. It's a very good strategy. It makes a lot of sense. So we just have 3 minutes. So what's one short takeaway or reminder you want technical writers to walk away with today? So we can just go around like 30 seconds, 1 minute. What's one takeaway or reminder you want technical writers to walk away with today? It could be 2 words, 3 words, 4 words.
I would just say, just always remember that you're dealing with people who do not have your background or your knowledge. This is, despite a lot of people not realizing, is you need to be people focused on people, and you have to need the ability to explain things clearly, writing and verbally, and just remember who you're working with, because there's a lot of people out there. They need a lot of guidance, and if you're in a position to do it within your job as a technical writer, do it.
Thank you for that, Michael. Wisdom. 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm always 1 minute.
Sorry,
so,
sorry.
so for me, I would say look for a mentor. Look for a senior technical writing mentor. If you're asking for that, the person will be the guidance in it.
Yeah.
Owanate, what do you have to say?
For me, don't limit your experience to only writing. Take up as much projects, help or collaborate with others, as much people within the organization. You never know, because there are a lot of pathways for technical writing. You can go into project management, you can go into developer advocacy. So do not stick to, oh, I'm just for the documentation. Contribute to marketing, contribute to sales, contribute to engineering, depending on the structure of the company, right? So do not be focused on just writing. Try as much as possible to ensure you spread your wings as much as you can, so that you can have pathways that you can leverage on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Owanate. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much, Wisdom. Really, I feel like it's knowledge packed. I feel like everyone that would watch this recording, as many people join the live later, would have gained so much information that they wouldn't have if they were just scrolling through LinkedIn, you know. And it's coming fact that it's coming from lived experiences, it makes it makes the information more concrete and, you know, applicable. So I'm so glad you agreed to do this with me, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day ahead of you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Deji. Lecture.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.